United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we come before you this evening. We thank you always for the bounty and the blessing with which you bless this nation and our communities. And Lord, we gather tonight as we are in the midst of political season and all the things that brings about, that we might pause long enough to do the business of the community, to be able to work together and do those things which will enhance the life in this town. And so, Lord, we would pray for that wisdom that the council needs. Lord, we also ask your blessings upon those first responders, our fire department, as they stay ready to go to any kind of emergency that might take place. Our city employees and the things that they do. And then, Lord, of course, our police department as they are on patrol on a regular basis. Keep them all safe, protect them, and bring them home to their families. Lord, we thank you now for that, and I ask what I do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Clerk will take the roll.
Councilman Blevins.
Here.
Councilman Schlatt.
Present.
Councilman Valeris.
Present.
Councilwoman Syke.
Here.
Councilman Lloyd.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lally.
Yes.
Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor McLeod.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. May I have a motion for corrections and approval of the agenda for February 25?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Lally, second by Mr. Valerius. We do have a correction. There will be no closed session. May I have a motion to remove that from the agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blevins.
Oh, you don't need the two.
Don't need
You
the
can
two.
just adopt, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
So a vote to adopt the amended agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for February 11th?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blevins.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schlatt. Mr. Valerius. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we have some presentations. Our fire department regarding a smoke alarm grant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, elected officials, Council. Thank you for having me speak this evening. Of the last several house and apartment fires that have occurred in the city of Allen Park, smoke detectors have been a factor. We had a 16-year-old girl fall asleep when frying food on the stove. The smoke detector woke her up. She extinguished the fire and called the fire department to complete the job. We had a 60-year-old woman who was having a glass of wine about midnight, and there was a fire in her garage from a cord that was under a rug. This was in an attached condominium that was not sprinkled. Her smoke detector woke her. Fire department responded after she left the house, and we extinguished the fire. And unfortunately, in October, we had a gentleman who had been cooking with oil and accidentally left the stove on and went upstairs. He suffered life-threatening injuries and unfortunately perished, and his smoke detectors were not installed properly. We find them to be very important. Chief just now had just shown me something from our state fire marshal that the state of Michigan leads in fire deaths, unfortunately, in the nation. And we're up now 30% from last year in fire deaths. Smoke detectors save lives. Every home should have them, and we've been finding that many homes in Allen Park don't have them, unfortunately. And also, smoke detectors that you do have should be replaced every 10 years. They simply wear out. They're still okay, but they should be replaced. Now, Chief LaFond recently wrote a grant request to the Factory Mutual Insurance Company for $2,500 worth of smoke detectors, and the grant was awarded to the city of Allen Park. Thanks to Home Depot, we were able to buy the products in quantity and get a great deal on them. So we have 175 smoke detectors that are available to give away. They are the 10-year lithium-ion battery style,
So you'll be seeing these become more standard. No more replacing the 9-volt batteries every time the spring and fall come around. The life of the batteries are 10 years, the life of the detector is 10 years. You simply put it up and it never needs to be replaced. It's the same thing that Matt in the building department is doing with the rental programs as well. So they'll be available for Allen Park residents at the Allen Park Fire Department, a limit 2 per household. And while anybody is eligible, we do ask and prefer that it's for our seniors and those persons who might not be able to afford these indispensable devices on their own. So feel free to come by any daylight hour to the front doors on Roosevelt at the fire department, and we'll be happy to give them away until they're exhausted. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool.
Is there anyone here from the Allen Park School Board? Okay.
Come on, you can do it.
Well, we were supposed to have a presentation by the Allen Park Schools Board of Education, but there doesn't appear to be anyone here at the moment.
Do they know the time of the meeting here? Or?
Yeah, they should. Well, unfortunately, I don't have a phone number, so we will go on to organizational business. And if they come, we will fit them in. Our first order of business is the appointment of a Human Resource Risk Management Director. Memo from Mr. Kibbe to Mayor and City Council. From the middle of November 2019 through December 13, 2019, the Human Resource Risk Management Director position was advertised through the Michigan Municipal League website. There were a total of 7 qualified candidates that applied. It was decided that all 7 candidates would be interviewed. Prior to starting the interview process, 1 candidate removed himself because he found other employment. The 6 candidates were interviewed, and that group was pared down to 2 finalists. After completing the interview process, the interview panel of Mayor McLeod, Councilman Lloyd, Deputy Finance Director Amanda Wirtz, Parks and Recreation Director Pat Hawkins, and DPS Director Tom Murray recommend that the Mayor and Council approve Ms. Tanya Whitehead for the position of Allen Park Human Resource Risk Management Director. The HR Director position has been vacant for over 5 years, and it is one of my goals and objectives to fill this position. Ms. Whitehead has extensive human resources experience with both salaried and union personnel. Her experience includes the development of performance reviews, policy development, training, recruitment, employee benefits, and risk management. She holds a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration, Organizational Administration. Her full resume was attached for Council's review. I think that Ms. Whitehead will be a valuable addition to our team. The starting salary for the Human Resource Risk Management Director position will be $73,200. Since Ms. Whitehead is available to start immediately, I would like to have an effective date of hire of February 26, 2020. Thank you for your consideration on this matter. May I have are there any, we start with the motion. May I have a motion for the appointment of Ms. Whitehead as HR? Mr. Lally?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lloyd. Are there any questions or discussion?
Just to let the audience know about this young lady here, Tanya, this afternoon, I called her previous employer, and I had a talk with him probably about after 45 minutes. He didn't say anything bad about you. Everything was really good. And you got my vote.
Anyone else?
I'll just echo that sentiment. As we said on the committee, and just to assure our residents, it was a very thorough process. I was very proud to be a member of that interviewing committee, and we considered a number of things. And
Mrs. Whited came out as our clear choice. So I think that I have absolute confidence that she will step into that role and serve the citizens of Allen Park.
One of the things they forgot to mention is that she has ties to our community. Her son, or is it your daughter? And so she has those ties to our community, so I think that that's a wonderful thing to have. Ew, and I look like we have after our motion, we have somebody from the school. All right.
We can
We got a motion and a
be
second.
flexible, right?
Yeah, flexible.
There's no other discussion. Have a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Woo.
Up so everyone can see you? Welcome.
You got something to say? Come up here, say something. Okay.
And now, before we go on to the next appointment, we have our school board, Mr. Darga.
Please continue, we're still waiting for Tiffany Keith. I apologize, everybody. It was on our calendars at 6:30.
Oh.
I apologize for that. So, Ms. Keith, we're still waiting for.
That's not an excuse.
Oh, we're still waiting for someone? Okay. Well, then we'll go on to the next item, which is the appointment of a committee appointment of, I am recommending the following for appointment. To the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, I would like to appoint Maria Lally for a term that will expire 12/31/2022. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blevins,
Second.
by Ms. Syke.
Okay, second. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you're not getting to do this.
Are there any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried, and if Maria would please come forward and be sworn in.
At the end, just say you swear you do, you affirm, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And then you repeat after me. So just raise your right hand, and you, Maria Lally, do solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and that you will endeavor to secure and maintain an honest and efficient administration of the affairs of the city of Allen Park, free from partisan distinction or control, and that you will perform the duties of Brownfield Redevelopment Authority member to the best of your ability, so help you God. All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, and again,
job, Marty.
I will make the comment that very much appreciate all of our residents and even our non-residents who step up and volunteer to serve on our many, many commissions and committees and boards. You are a true benefit to the city, and we very much appreciate the time that you give us. Thank you. And now we will backtrack to the Allen Park Public Schools presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name is Mike Darman, Superintendent. This evening is our Director of Finance, Ms. Tiffany Keith. Once again, I apologize for being late. It was on our calendar for 6:30. We were here this afternoon with Mr. Nizzi getting everything set up. So once again, I apologize. I do appreciate you guys allowing us to do this quick presentation for you. We are going to do a presentation on the non-homestead, the Headley Amendment. Ms. Keith has a PowerPoint presentation that she's going to go ahead and walk us through.
Again, thank you for letting us come and explain the Headley non-homestead restoration millage. Again, we apologize for being late. We thought it was 6:30, so I feel really unprofessional right now. So I'm just going to start with giving a little history of what the Headley is. The Headley Amendment is a constitutional limitation on increases in property tax collections in Michigan. Basically meaning that once property taxes or property values increase greater than the rate of inflation, that starts the rollback, which is called the Headley rollback. which is what happened to us in 2018 when we were first rolled back. The millage can only be increased back to the 18 mills once we put this out to the voters, which is what the March 10th ballot proposal is for. And I just put a note on here just to remind myself to say, even though this is only for our non-homestead properties, that you know, all taxpayers, you know, can vote and have the right to vote to restore this 18 mills. This next slide is why this is important for Allen Park Schools. So it just kind of gives a breakdown when we first experienced the rollback, which was the 2018 year, and our last year for 2019. So it just shows the loss in revenue for the non-homestead property taxes. So if you take the 2 years combined together, it's 189,000. So I have, you know, my pointer's in my bag, but so I'm going to try to just make this a little bit bigger for the audience if they can see it a little bit better. So for 2018-19, the allowed mills to collect is 18. So based on our taxable value, we should have collected the 1.6 million. Because we were rolled back, we were only able to collect the 17.064 mills. So we collected the 1.5 million, which was a loss in revenue of 86,000. And then if I just scroll over, you can see the 2019 year, which is what we are currently collecting on, our 2019 4029. The 18 mills would be the 1.699 million, and since we are rolled back, we are now collecting 16.9104 for the 1.596. So when you add those 2 years together, the combined loss in revenue is the 189,000. And then a mill, if anybody's unfamiliar, a mill is just a unit of measure to describe what the property tax revenues, how we calculate that. So in basic terms, $1 of property tax revenue is 1 mill for every 1,000 of taxable value. So if anybody has, just for math's sake, so 100,000 of taxable value, it would be $100 in increase in property tax on a non-homestead property. If the restoration millage is not approved and we cannot collect the full 18 mills, which is authorized by the state, this loss in revenue will continue to grow as property taxes increase and we continue to either be rolled back or if we continue to stay at the 16.9 mills. The state does not make up the difference for us, so the state assumes that every school district is collecting the 18 mills, and without collecting the full 18 mills, Allen Park does not actually collect the full foundation allowance per pupil. And this slide shows the same thing, so I'm going to just kind of make it a little bit bigger for the audience to see. And this is just a base calculation on our foundation. So it takes our number of students times our foundation allowance, and it gives the foundation revenue. And then the state puts in what we should be collecting from the city. So if the millage was approved or if we were still at 18 mills, you would see the 1.699 million. And then the state puts in the 29,500,000 to give us that same base, 31,242,000, and our actual foundation allowance would be the 8134. And then on the side, you can see when the millage is not approved or we are not collecting 18 mills, the state still only contributes that same 29 million. So then when we put in what we are collecting and you do the addition there, you can see we're only really collecting 8107 per pupil instead of the 8134. So we're still technically losing $26 per pupil on that. And then I did just kind of include our latest state aid payment, which does show that the state assumes a local revenue is at 18 mills, which is highlighted in yellow. Hopefully everybody can see that. So it shows that they're assuming that we are collecting that 1.699 and we are collecting the 1.5. So how does this affect taxpayers in Allen Park? There's no cost difference or increase for principal residents homeowners. This is only for non-homestead properties, which is why the ballot is the Headley non-homestead restoration millage. And examples of non-homestead properties would be commercial businesses, rental properties, vacant land, or second homes. We are just asking that our non-homestead properties return to the 18 mills, which they were before that 2018 initial rollback. The ballot language does come off a little bit confusing because we are asking for that, we're asking for additional mills to protect us from the rollback in any future years until we can renew in June of 2022. So the school district can only levy that 18 mills per year, no matter, no matter what. So if this gets approved and we have those 4 additional mills for protection, we can only levy that 18. We can never go higher than that. The purpose of the 4 mills is just to safeguard us from any future rollbacks, so that way we don't have to go back out for another vote to restore to that 18 mills. And this is just an example of, it's actually what the ballot does look like on March 10th. So this is the actual ballot, and then here's the summary. And the summary does say the 4 mills for the 3 years for Headley restoration purposes if necessary. So again, that's just a reminder that we cannot collect anything over that 18 mills. It's just there for protection. And then I know there's probably some questions, if we have this money earmarked, if the vote goes through. We don't have it earmarked for any specific items. These are, again, funds that we should be collecting based on what's authorized for the school district. So, these dollars just go right into our operating fund. And those dollars are always spent on making the biggest impact for our students. So, we are just encouraging everybody to go and support your local schools and remember to vote on March 10th, 2020. And then we have some information on voting if you're not registered or if you need to do an absentee ballot. But the polls are open March 10th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if anybody has any questions.
I think one of the biggest things is, again, it's just the priority of the school districts to ensure that the students of Allen Park Public Schools receive the maximum funding authorized. Currently we are not. Currently not receiving that extra funds. And for us to be able to go back out to our voters and ask for them to consider that on this next ballot is why we're out. We're meeting with all of our different local groups within the schools, and this is our first time coming in and presenting here, so we appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Does anyone on council have any questions of Mr. Darga? I think it pays to emphasize that this does not affect the homeowners. It affects non-homestead property.
And I think
Just trying to make something whole again.
Right. Most definitely. Thank you. And again, we also have information, if anybody would like information, we've got your handouts, we have questions and answer documents. Also, please feel free to contact me through our website. You can call me up if you have any questions. I'm happy to meet with anybody, along with Ms. Keith. We can sit down if you have questions. The more information that we have out to our residents, to our school community, and residents of Allen Park, that's what it's really about. It's making sure that we make informed decisions. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have the city administrator's report.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to fill in for Mark when he's under the weather, which he is tonight. I'm sure he's only infected half the staff, though, in 4 days, so we'll endeavor to persevere. Mark leaves me these notes. The city received notification this morning that the 2019-20 Wayne County Park millage allocation will be $53,000, which would be coming back to us for our parks this year. Due to some design challenges, we are moving the Old Goddard water main project to the summer of 2021. That was supposed to occur this year, but we've moved it. In place, we're going to replace the water main on Belmont Avenue between Fox and Champaign Road. The Department of Public Services has a job posting for the public service worker. The application and job description are available on the city's website. The posting will be up until February 28th when it closes. The U.S. Census Bureau will be using our council chamber for training sessions in order to conduct the 2020 census in Allen Park and the neighboring communities. They are scheduled to be here on 9 different days in April and May. 2 of the dates fall on council meeting days. They'll have tables folded and put aside here in the room, and the chairs will be put back in the right order for the meeting, so they should be out of the way. And lastly, the Commissioners' Appreciation Dinner has been moved back 1 week to April 30th, from the 23rd to the 30th. And that is all I have, Mayor.
Any questions?
Mark didn't leave you any bad jokes.
I don't tell Mark's bad jokes.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion to accept and file the city administrator's report?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lloyd, second by Mr. Valerius. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And we come to public comments section of our meeting, and all we ask is that you keep your comments to 4 minutes, preferably on agenda items, and simply give your name and your street location. We do not want to have your address. Anyone would like to come forward during this section? Please do so.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Ajane Evans. I'm actually a staff member for State Senator Marshall Bullock. Actually just brought information in regards to folks in the community participating with the census, as well as some information from the state consumer guide and some other information. Just wanted to come to the meeting and we'll try to drop in more presently. I know the senators at the State of the City address going on this evening, but again, just wanted to come and drop in.
Thank you.
Thank
If you have
you.
any
Thank you.
material, you can give it to the clerk, please.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, these are the chief of staff. All right, thanks.
Hi, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Tracy Fruss. I live on Hanford here in Allen Park. There was a meeting on the 20th that you guys had promoted regarding the Ecorse Creek. It was a town hall meeting. I just was curious if anybody was going to comment on that at tonight's meeting. I didn't see it on the agenda, and it'd just be nice if somebody could comment on what happened there. Some of us weren't able to go, so if you had any help for us to help mitigate that, I know that's a big deal. So
I'm sure that a number of us will comment. Thank you. Anyone else? I think you all want to get out before the bad weather hits, is what it is. There's no one else coming up. We will close this section. Now we come to the consent agenda. We have purchasing actions, claims and accounts, and payroll report. May I have a motion to approve?
A motion.
Motion by Mr. Lally, second by Mr. Schlack. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We have a resolution to award the 2020 pavement joint sealing cooperative bid to the lowest qualified bidder, Al's Asphalt and Paving Incorporated, in the amount of $70,742.51. Memo from Mr. Kibbe indicated the city administrator's office has received the request from DPS Director Tom Murray and the city engineer, C.E. Raines Company, to award the 2020 pavement joint sealing cooperative bid. This was another great opportunity to work with our colleagues in Gibraltar, Flat Rock, and Riverview, saving money for our communities. At this time, I would concur with the request and recommend that Mayor and Council award the bid to Al's Asphalt Paving in the amount of $70,742.51. Thank you. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Syke,
Support.
support by Mr. Blevins. Are there any questions, comments?
I would like to make a comment. One of the things in my previous employment was a program to eliminate polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And you probably wonder, what are those? Those are things that are found in coal tar. And coal tar has been used in resurfacing sealings of asphalt pavements. And what happens is it flakes off, it gets flies in the air, it gets into our water, it gets into us. And it never goes away, and it is a carcinogen. So I'm very happy to see that, from my understanding this year and last year also, that we will not be using the alternate, which is polymer modified coal tar emulsion slurry that some other communities may be using. Many communities throughout the state are eliminating these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons because of their caustic and cancerous nature to humans and animals, and once it's in our water, it doesn't really go away. So I'm very proud that we have done this, and that this is the way that we're going to go with our program. Thank you, and thank you to Raines, and thank you to Tom Murray for following through with that. Thank you.
Thank you. We learn something every day. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Well, the resolution's been approved. Now we have council comments.
Okay, I'll go first. As far as I've actually attended a couple meetings this week, or this past week. One was the meeting for the Dearborn Heights and the Ecorse Creek, the north branch of the Ecorse Creek. One of the things that was very informative is that the project now has the ability to take and build a detention pond, which it did not have before. Unfortunately, many residents were, well, first of all, the meeting was attended by Councilwoman Debbie Dingle, Councilwoman I always get her name wrong, Rashid, thank you. And then the Corps of Engineers, and the only person that was not present was unfortunately the county. And one of the thing is, it is a step in improving the Ecorse Creek flooding. However, it will not correct everything. And one of the things to remember is that while they make every effort, there are some places where the elevation just will not allow the change in for the detention to assist you in your particular area. But it does greatly remove it. And it was a very well attended, very heated debate, because it is going to take several years. The other meeting that I went to was an environmental downriver. We talked about McLeod steel and asbestos and several other issues affecting downriver, and that was a good program to hear from. It was well attended. Our state rep, Frank Liberati, attended, in addition to the Corps of Engineers and Eagle and several other people. So I got to do those, and I think that's all I really got to do this week, except I did a little more student teaching. And I'm what do I call it? Guest teacher? Guest teacher, yep, okay. And thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for listening to me. And I can't wait to hear more about the census, because it's very important that we fill out our census. So thank you. Yeah. Oh, I should say one more thing. With the water in the Great Lakes are high, and the ground is very saturated. So if you have not already removed your personal mementos and valuables that are located in your basement, I would suggest that you do that just to safeguard them, because I would hate to see them lost if you have not already moved them out of your basements. I can't guarantee that we won't get flooded, but my hope is we don't. But what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So thank you very much, and you have a good weekend.
So last meeting I spoke because we do have an election coming up. We have new envelopes. All right. There you go. Well, and I spoke about one of the items that we have on there is the DIA millage, and I talked about the importance of that. And despite whether or not you attend the DIA, I think that our particular location and our proximity to Detroit is something that very much adds to the value of this community. And I want to echo those same sentiments, but in a much more direct and immediate way to the millage and the presentation that was put together by Mrs. Keith and Mr. Darga today. I will say, so As many of you know, I'm a teacher at Allen Park Public Schools, so acknowledging that bias. But I will say in that sense, Ms. Keith, you know, she has always been a consummate professional. So despite not feeling that way today, I've worked with her, and I've been to many school board meetings, and she is very much on top of what she does. My father worked very close with her and depended on her very much, probably contacted her a little too much from time to time. So I very much know that this was a very well thought out and thoroughly put together proposal. And it is one of those things that whether or not you have students in Allen Park Public Schools, it is something that contributes to our community. It's something that when people are looking to where they are going to make a home, they look at the schools that they are going to make. But besides that, that is a focal point of our community. That, along with Melvindale and Southgate schools, those are the places where people meet. They come together at those sporting events. They come together at those plays and productions. It is preparing and educating our future citizens. So it is a vital thing that we have as our community. And I'm sure that Councilman Valerius will echo this. We go to work, and all that we ask is to have the tools that are necessary in order to give the best possible education for our students. And I feel very confidently that this proposal is something that will do this. So I would very, very, very much encourage Allen Park residents to go out and vote March 10th and to support this, whether or not you have students in the community, because this is something that is going to impact your community in a very real way. So I encourage you, if you do have questions, if you do have reservations, contact Mr. Darga. He's great about it, okay? You can contact me too. That's fine. But I will send you to Mr. Darga, all right? So again, please, please, please get out and vote March 10th. I know that there's a lot of talk about presidential candidate and all that stuff, and that's exciting, but there's some very real important things that are going to affect the members of this community. So I would encourage you to go out and look at those down ballot issues as well. Thank you.
So since he mentioned me by name and called me out, just to express my sentiments, agree totally with him as an educator, albeit not one in Allen Park. Just the support that we give our schools and students is so important. And you might look at that figure and see that $26 per pupil, but that's a big number, and it's something that they deserve and are due to them. So it's important to look at it and consider it. And like he said, whether you have children that attend the schools or not, it still affects the community as a whole. So as Mr. Lloyd mentioned, support it. Get out and vote on March the 10th for sure. Thank you.
I'll go next. Thank you all for coming out. I'm glad to see the students out here again, and I hope you all come up here and speak to the council, because everyone's voice does matter, as I always say. Yes, the election is coming up, and so due to that, we won't have a council meeting until 3 weeks from now, and St. Patrick's Day. Also, March 8th is daylight savings time, so remember to spring forward with that. And also, I know possibly our Mayor Pro Tem will talk more about it, but have a Memorial Day parade coming up May 17th at 2 p.m. So please go out and support that. And I hope everyone has a good night. Think positive, and thank you.
Well, I don't really got much to say. I feel my colleagues covered it pretty well. I will just echo that I did also attend the Ecorse Creek Town Hall, and it was well attended, as Congresswoman Syke has mentioned. Congresswoman.
Oh, I got her promotion.
I give you a promotion. I'm going to blame all the punchies I ate today. So with that being said, definitely get out and vote, like everyone else has said, and do I feel this issue of the proposal from the school is very beneficial for our community, and definitely look at that. And other than that, see you St. Patty's Day.
That sounds real good. I'm going to echo everybody what they said, all of them. Plus what I'm going to say. I want to congratulate the Human Resources Tanya Wedded. welcome aboard. I'm sure that you're gonna do a good job. Like I said, I talked to your previous boss for 45 minutes. Too bad he wasn't Italian. I was taking Italian, but you couldn't answer me. But anyway, I don't want to thank Maria for joining the Brownsfield Commission. I appreciate that, Maria. Thank you. And also, the sidewalk that we talked about, it's still in the books, believe it or not. It's not a dead issue. We are considering it, I don't know about this year, maybe next year, but we are going to do, maintain our sidewalks in Allen Park. Of course, you know, the thing about sidewalk is the responsibility of the citizens, the neighbor, the front of the sidewalk, it's your responsibility. If you see the sidewalk's no good and you got a little bit of money, fix it. You know, that's all. But if you don't, then we'll come out and fix it for you, but then you still have to pay the bill. We don't pay the bill. You are responsible for your own sidewalk. When I first moved into Allen Park, I had to fix about sidewalk, and I said, how much is it going to cost me? Back then, it was only $75 to $100 a slab, but now it's a little bit more. Okay, so I said, forget about it. I'll do the whole sidewalk myself. So I redid the whole sidewalk. So, no, it's considered that's our responsibility. That's a maintenance for a beautiful community. We got to keep this Allen Park good looking. Cut the grass, do the sidewalk, whatever. Take care of business around the house. I was got to say another thing, Mayor, but I keep forgetting. I always get on the jam here. Yeah.
Parade.
Oh, the parade. You know what? I think about this parade all the time. I'm on the phone all day long calling people, and then when it comes to say something, I can forget. But anyway, no, it's very important that we have a parade this year. I mean, you know, it's been a couple of years we haven't. The mayor and I decided, let's do it. So we are going to do it, right, Mayor?
Yes, that.
Yes. And with that, I need all the help from all the big shooters out there sitting in the back. All of them needs to be behind us. And put a couple over here, too. And over here. But really, we got to get behind it and make things happen. I'm going to try to get the governor to come in the parade. Isn't that nice?
That's
Hopefully.
Nice. But
we do have other public figures are going to come. Dingo's going to come. Baydoun, Frank, and all the council people. That's important. And hopefully the band, the schools, the churches. So many phone calls I have to make. That's why I got my committee helping out. Appreciate that, Matthew and Charlie, my man Charlie. Okay, I want to say thank you very much for coming. I want to thank about the Allen Amendment. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Did a nice job. And have a good night, and I'll see you on St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Don't drink too much beer, okay? Green beer.
Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to echo many of my constituents. Don't forget to vote Tuesday, March 10th. And the key thing I want people to remember is you will have a selection of 3 ballots. You have the Republican primary ballot, the Democratic primary ballot, and the nonpartisan ballot with either the Detroit Institute of Arts and the Allen Park Public Schools or the Detroit Institute of Art and Southgate Public Schools. So precincts 1, 2, and 3 in the Melvindale School District. For this election, you only have the Detroit Institute of Arts. One thing I want to remind people, always turn over the ballot, though, to see both sides, regardless of anything. Thank you, Dan. You pushed it more than I did. But just remember, if you're at home and you haven't received your absentee ballot yet, check your pile of political mail because you may have set it aside. These are the new envelopes, and this is how are they going to come for until they change it again. One of the things I always push is the website or the mi.gov/vote, and people ask me, why don't you steer people to your city website? Well, the city doesn't have the technology like the state of Michigan. Like right now on the city website, we have 45 different ballots technically, because we have 15 precincts, 3 ballots per precinct. If you go to mi.gov/vote, it brings up your personal, what exactly you'll be voting on, your ballot, where you vote. Like I entered my birth month and year and my first and last name, and it comes up right away, yes, you are registered to vote. And then it tells me that there's 3 elections this year. In fact, because of how busy I am on election day, it tells me when my absentee ballot was mailed and that they have, our clerk's office has received it. It has where you go vote, and even if that fails, it comes up with a map of where you vote. So you may hear things like, oh, they're trying to oppress voters. There's no way in Michigan, because if you have a cell phone, computer, access to technology, I will say, it comes up right in your hand. So mi.gov/vote. So it used to be michigan.gov/vote, but they made it even easier, mi.gov/vote. With that, thank you all for coming out tonight. God bless you and good night.
Thank you, Mike. Very interesting. I'll have to check that website out. Just so everyone knows, the majority of your council members were able to attend the town hall meeting that was put on by the Army Corps of Engineers and Congresswoman Dingell and Talab. We also had in attendance, our city administrator was there and our city attorney was there, and several of our department heads also attended. So there was a great deal of interest on the parts of many who serve you. We were there to get information because at this point there is no direct impact on Allen Park regarding the Ecorse Creek. From my perspective, based on the fact that the Army Corps of Engineers has been doing study after study after study for years and years, I totally understood the frustration of many of the Dearborn Heights residents who got up and spoke. When you have had a study that was completed several years ago, and then you are told that if this budget gets approved by Congress, that they can proceed with the detention pond in Dearborn Heights, which will alleviate most but not all of their flooding. And I know that you've all seen pictures of cars covered with water in that area. We have our issues here, but nothing like having water pouring into the first or second floor of your home. A few things stuck on my mind. One of them was that they felt that this project would get approval because the rating on it was a 7 and they approved the SULACs and the rating on that was a 2.5. And I thought, certainly when you've got something that's 3 times worse or critical, you should not have a problem getting funding. The other issue that arose, however, was the fact that then they're going to go through a design project. And my thought again was, you've studied this. How many times? And now you're going to design? You knew where you were going to put it. The city of Dearborn Heights owns the property. You're not going to have a problem acquiring it. But now you're telling these residents it's going to take about a year or so. Now in the end, they did indicate it was probably going to be a shorter timeline. But the construction, if I'm remembering correctly, was not going to occur until 2025.
5 years.
Correct.
And while I'm not a Dearborn Heights resident, I empathize with that. And I heard every angry word that they said. And I agreed with them. This is our tax dollars. We ought to all be angry. But there was hope that was held out by people who live here in Allen Park along Ecorse Creek, who have water that pours over the banks when it rains, who watch a national website flood guide to know exactly when it's going to start to come over. Many of them live with it. They've gotten used to it. They've prepared themselves for it, but their streets flood and they can't get out of their neighborhood. But they held out hope because they've studied it here too, and we've got plans, and I had our building department make a major size map of a smaller map just so we could get an idea. And then I got a call from a resident afterwards because she'd stayed longer and had an opportunity to talk to the Army Corps of Engineers. And she called me. Oh, he told her, they had to remove Allen Park from the project so that they could reduce the cost and get approval. That is unacceptable. And I told her that was unacceptable. And I'm sure that my council members will also agree that is unacceptable. And I intend to contact every entity that can be contacted and communicate just how unacceptable that is, starting with the county, through the state, through federal. I also, however, picked up information at this meeting, and I'm sure others made note of it, that there may be some grants available where we can at least alleviate or help residents. And I'm going to look into that also. But there may come a time when I'm asking every one of you to start writing your congressional personnel, your representatives, and tell them we've had enough of you taking our money and spending it not wisely, not prioritizing, and not caring about the people who are supporting you. The last thing I want to, two other things. So schools are important. People who don't have children in school, who take the cavalier attitude, well, my kids don't go to that school, very short-sighted. The point's being made here by my fellow council members. Schools are important. You know, when you moved into a community, you took a look at what are the schools like? What are the recreation facilities like? What are the neighborhoods like? Are they well kept? Keep that in mind when you vote on these things. This is the future you're talking about. 2020 census, I know that there's been negative about that. It is important. You must complete that census. It means money for your community. If you don't complete the census, we lose. We can't afford to lose. We don't want to lose. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you very much and the time you spend. Have a good evening. Stay safe. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lally, second. Mr. Valerius, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody.
Hey,
Thank
no,
you.
just kidding. No.
6:54. Thank you.